Welcome to the podcast. My name is Dr. Noor Gajraj. Let's talk about basic respiratory physiology, the breath of life. Functions of the respiratory system. The primary function is gas exchange. The most critical role is to supply the body with oxygen, which is vital for cellular energy production and to remove carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism. Acid-base balance, pH regulation, by controlling CO2 levels, which forms carbonic acid in the blood. The respiratory system plays a crucial role in maintaining the body's delicate pH balance. Vocalization. Air moving across the vocal cords in the larynx allows us to speak, sing, and make sounds. Olfaction or smell. Air drawn into the nasal cavity allows odorants to reach the olfactory receptors, enabling our sense of smell. Protection. Hairs and mucus in the nasal cavity and airways filter, warm, and humidify inhaled air, protecting the delicate lung tissues from foreign particles and pathogens. Our respiratory journey begins in the upper respiratory tract, which serves as the primary pathway for air entering and exiting the body. Nasal cavity, the main entry point for air. It's lined with mucus and cilia, tiny hairs, that filter out dust and particles. It also warms and humidifies incoming air, protecting the delicate lung tissues. Our sense of smell resides here. The pharynx, a shared passageway for both air and food. It connects the nasal cavity and mouth to the larynx and esophagus. The larynx or voice box, located at the top of the trachea, it contains the vocal cords for sound production and the epiglottis, a flap that closes during swallowing to prevent food from entering the trachea. This initial pathway is crucial for preparing the air before it reaches the lungs. Mechanics of breathing, inspiration and expiration. From the larynx, air moves into the lower respiratory tract, leading to the lungs, where the vital gas exchange occurs. The trachea or windpipe, a rigid tube supported by C-shaped cartilage rings, ensuring it remains open. It extends from the larynx down into the chest. The bronchi. The trachea branches into two main bronchi, the left and the right, which enter each lung. These continue to divide into smaller and smaller branches. Bronchioles. These are the smallest airways, lacking cartilage, with walls composed mainly of smooth muscle, which allows their diameter change, regulating airflow. Alveoli. At the ends of the smallest bronchioles are clusters of tiny air-filled sacs. These are the primary sites of gas exchange. The lung contains millions of alveoli, providing an enormous surface area for efficient gas transfer. The lungs, spongy elastic organs housed within the thoracic cavity, protected by the rib cage and diaphragm. Mechanisms of breathing, inspiration and expiration. Breathing is a dynamic process driven by changes in pressure. Inspiration or inhalation. This is an active process. The diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle below the lungs, contracts and flattens. The intercostal muscles between the ribs contract, pulling the rib cage up and out. These actions increase the volume of the thoracic cavity, decreasing the pressure within the lungs. Air then flows into the lungs from the higher atmospheric pressure. Expiration. This is a passive process. The diaphragm and intercostal muscles relax. The thoracic cavity volume decreases, increasing pressure within the lungs. The elastic recoil of the lungs pushes air out of the lungs to the lower atmospheric pressure. For forced exhalation, e.g. during exercise, abdominal muscles and other intercostal muscles can contract to actively push air out. Gas exchange, the alveolar capillary membrane. The magic of respiration, where gases are exchanged, happens at the alveolar capillary membrane. This membrane is incredibly thin, just 2 cells thick, allowing for rapid diffusion. Oxygen. After inhalation, the concentration of oxygen is high in the alveoli. Due to this partial pressure gradient, oxygen rapidly diffuses across the alveolar and capillary walls into the bloodstream, where it binds to hemoglobin in red blood cells. Carbon dioxide. Conversely, the concentration of carbon dioxide is high in the deoxygenated blood arriving at the lungs. CO2 diffuses from the blood across the capillary and alveolar walls into the alveoli to be exhaled. This continuous diffusion, driven by pressure differences, ensures our blood is oxygenated and waste carbon dioxide is removed. Lung volumes and capacities. To assess lung function, we measure various lung volumes and capacities using a technique called spirometry. The tidal volume is the amount of air inhaled or exhaled during a normal quiet breath, typically 500 milliliters. Inspiratory reserve volume, the maximum amount of air that can be inhaled beyond a normal tidal inhalation. Expiratory reserve volume, the maximum amount of air that can be exhaled beyond a normal tidal exhalation. Residual volume, this is the volume of air remaining in the lungs after a maximal exhalation. It cannot be exhaled. This air prevents the lungs from completely collapsing and allows for continuous gas exchange, even between breaths. Residual volume typically accounts for about 1 to 1.2 liters of air. Lung capacities are combinations of these volumes. For instance, vital capacity equals the tidal velocity, the inspiratory reserve volume, and the expiratory reserve volume. And the total lung capacity is the vital capacity plus the residual volume. Regulation of breathing, the control center. Neural control. The primary respiratory control centers are located in the brainstem, the medulla oblongata, and the pons. These centers generate the basic rhythm of breathing, sending signals via nerves, such as the phrenic nerve to the diaphragm, to the respiratory muscles. Chemical control, the most important. The most powerful drivers of breathing are changes in blood gas levels. Carbon dioxide, chemoreceptors in the brain stem and blood vessels are highly sensitive to carbon dioxide and pH changes. A slight increase in carbon dioxide is the strongest stimulus to breathe more deeply and frequently. Oxygen, chemoreceptors in the carotid arteries and aorta sense significant drops in oxygen levels, acting as a secondary but still vital stimulus for breathing. In conclusion, basic respiratory physiology is a marvel of biological engineering. From the filtering and warming in the upper airway to the precise gas exchange in the alveoli and the intricate neural and chemical regulation, every component works in harmony. This continuous vital process sustains our cellular energy, maintains our body's pH, and supports overall well-being. Understanding how we breathe allows us to appreciate this fundamental breath of life and its profound connection to our health. Thank you for listening. Please consider buying my book, 100 Pathways to Longevity, and subscribing to this channel.